Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brayton Horn. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brayton Horn will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brayton Horn at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 2nd of February 2019, we look at hopeless, 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 with the view being that irrespective of government's treatment of its citizens, government's behavior which causes fear which stalks the land, behavior and fear seemingly designed to make its people hopeless, Vincentians need to stand firm and do not become hopeless, because there is always hope. Hope springs eternal. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines hopeless as having no expectation of good or success. And the Collins Dictionary says that someone or something that is hopeless is certain to fail or be unsuccessful. From those definitions, it is reasonable to conclude that if someone or something is said to be hopeless, it means that someone or something will never be successful. It means that someone or something will always fail. It means that someone or something is bound to fail. This week's view is inspired by the judgment of the Eastern Supreme Court of Appeal in the case of the three teachers, Elvis Daniel, Addison Thomas, and Kenroy Johnson as appellants, and the Public Service Commission and the Attorney General as respondents. That judgment was delivered on the 29th of January 2019. The Court of Appeal judges ruled that the Public Service Commission, in essence, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, was wrong not to re-employ those three teachers when they were forced to resign their jobs to contest the general elections of 2010. They contested those elections on behalf of the opposition New Democratic Party, NDP. They lost. The court ruled that the government was wrong because the government gave the teachers a legitimate expectation to rely on Article 16 of the collective agreement which the government, signed with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union in 2005. Article 16 provided teachers with the assurance that they will get no pay leave of up to 6 months to contest elections, and that if they were unsuccessful in the elections, they will be reinstated. The court ruled that the government was wrong to say that Article 16 of the collective agreement was in breach of Section 26(1)(d) of the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In other words, Article 16 did not run contrary to the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The court also ruled that the teachers' union is entitled to their cost in the High Court matter as well as in the Court of Appeal matter. It is to be noted that the case got to the Court of Appeal because when it was heard in the High Court in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the judge, Justice Cuttle, dismissed it as entirely hopeless. Note that Justice Cuttle did not just say it was hopeless. He said entirely hopeless. Entirely hopeless in context means completely hopeless. Entirely hopeless in context means bound to fail. Well, clearly, the Court of Appeal did not see the hopelessness in the case which Justice Cottle saw. The Court of Appeal did not see it as entirely hopeless. In fact, the Court of Appeal, in its ruling, has vindicated the tenacity of the teachers' union, who were undaunted by the despairing words of Justice Cottle. The Court of Appeal, in its ruling, has shown Vincentians that you also must remain positive and continue to pursue justice, even when others, including a High Court judge, thinks that your situation is hopeless, or worse, entirely hopeless. The Court of Appeal, in its ruling, has shown Vincentians who suffer at the hands of the government that they must continue to pursue justice. Another thing which we, on a view from the outside, want to highlight from that same judgment of the Court of Appeal is found in paragraph 1 of the judgment. There, in paragraph 1, Justice Batiste states that he finds it, and I quote, a rather remarkable scenario in which the state engages the Constitution to avoid the provisions of Article 16 of a collective agreement it entered into with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, unquote. So, the Court of Appeal finds it remarkable, meaning they find it unusual and therefore surprising and worth mentioning that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which signed the agreement, is trying to use the constitution of the country not to honor the agreement. The government is trying to use the constitution of the country against the citizens of the country. It is worth noting that the constitution is meant to protect citizens. It is not there to be used against citizens by the government. It is also worth noting that one of the signed witnesses to the same collective agreement, which the government does not want to honor its Article 16, is the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. It is also worth noting that the same Prime Minister, in a public address subsequent to those elections, promised not to lift a finger to assist in the reinstatement of the teachers. There is no doubt that thousands of Vincentians, especially those who are employed by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, are now buoyed by that judgment of the Court of Appeal. The judgment reminds us all that we are not hopeless. And this is especially so when the Court of Appeal judgment comes soon after the damning judgment which the High Court delivered against the Public Service Commission of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in favor of the Public Service Union on behalf of its members in relation to the state of affairs pertaining to promotion or the lack of promotion in the public service in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There is no doubt also that Lizette King does not see her situation as hopeless. For those who are wondering, Lizette King is the freedom fighter who initiated the Front Line in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Front Line is a protest group which has been protesting on the streets of Kingstown immediately following the election results of December 9th, 2015. The Front Line, they have been protesting those election results because there have been allegations that there were numerous irregularities and illegalities and that the elections were stolen. Lizette King was once arrested, along with others, for protesting. She suffered the indignity and humiliation of having her bare skin exposed to the world during that arrest. Lizette King is currently sits in a police cell where she is said to remain over the weekend after having been arrested on a bench warrant yesterday, the 1st of February 2019, for having missed her court appearance. Lizette King will not lose hope. She will not see her situation as hopeless. In fact, she will see it as another chapter in the struggle for peace and justice for all in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is worth comparing Lizette King's situation to that of Dave Ames, the former investor who owned the Buckamar Bay Resort. He was charged with defrauding the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines of millions of dollars of tax revenue. He did not answer his bail. In fact, he absconded the country. He left from Chateaubriand, a most unusual port of exit. The government made excuses for him having absconded the country, and they later discontinued the charges against him in his absence, even as he continues to be in breach of his bail. Lizette King is a born Vincentian. It is reported that she, upon being reminded of her court appearance, made every effort to be in attendance. She voluntarily attended the police station to provide them with information of her whereabouts. Yet, she sits in a police cell. There is no doubt also that the New Democratic Party of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the NDP, and many thousands of Vincentians will find hope in the judgment of the Court of Appeal. They will not see the situation of pursuing the case of the election petitions as hopeless. They, no doubt, will have uppermost in their minds the fact that when the same Justice Cottle ruled on the petitions when they were before him in the High Court, he ruled against the NDP and remarked that the other parties are bound to succeed. In other words, he ruled that the NDP are bound to fail. Well, they, the NDP, went to the Court of Appeal and they did not fail. The matter is now before the High Court again. And so, hope springs eternal. We, on A View from the Outside, now urge all Vincentians not to become hopeless. We urge you to remain hopeful and to remember that hope springs eternal. Remain hopeful even when the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines continues to try to make us hopeless, when they, despite court rulings, delayed almost unbearably Otto Sam's financial settlement, when they delay paying Marcus de Freitas for his property, when they delayed the settlement with Randolph Toussaint, who died a broken man in expectation of that settlement, and when they are now appealing that damning judgment against the Public Service Commission. And as we urge you to remain hopeful, and as you remain hopeful, we implore you to bear in mind the words of the American writer and philosopher Elbert Hubbard. He said, a little more persistence, a little more effort, and what seemed hopeless failure may turn to glorious success. Until next week, this is Brayton Horn with A View from the Outside, with a reminder to all of our listeners to send feedback to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. We also invite you to visit our Facebook page at A View from the Outside, and also to visit our YouTube channel at Brayton Horn. Randy, you and all of the listeners have a pleasant Saturday, have a wonderful Sunday, and have a productive week ahead, remembering not to be hopeless, and remembering also that hope springs eternal.